When I was younger, I did not want to be a therapist. I wanted to be an attorney.
Really?
Yeah, totally different field. And so I worked at the Department of Corrections for a while. And as I got to be involved in that system, I recognized that I really wanted to learn more about behavior and why, and make some changes within systems. So I decided to switch over to psychology. So I had a major in psychology and a minor in political science.
Okay.
Yeah.
What fascinates you about human behavior?
Well, really, when we're talking about the Black family, right? So I'm very interested in community and my community, and just looking at behavior to see how we can be better, how we can be more united, how we can generate wealth, how we can just be healthy as an African American community. It's important to me. So.
And so when we're talking like about wealth, I know like you and I talk about a lot of different things related to that. And you recently like had an experience where you were traveling and you went to this conference. Like, how was that?
Yeah, I went to an Earn Your Leisure conference. It was in Atlanta, and I went with my son, which makes it so amazing. My adult son, he is about 22 years old, and so we had an opportunity to go to learn more about investing and creating generational wealth, which is really important for me, for myself. So I had to learn, and you know what you learn, I really believe you should come back and teach to others. And since visiting that conference, I actually rolled out a financial literacy program that we have here. It rolled out last week, so we do it in person. We do have some virtual Zoom curriculum, and then we also have an online platform. So
wow, isn't that cool? Yeah. Like, how you have to tell us more about it. Like, how can we connect in that way with you to get on that program?
So if people are interested, they can definitely go onto our website at divinewellnesscounseling.com to find out more about how to get into those financial literacy programs. Financial literacy is definitely connected to mental wellness, right? So if we're stable, we have good housing, we have savings for us, for ourselves, for our children to go to college, to do all those things for our family, we're more relaxed and we're less likely to have depression and anxiety and things like that. So it's very much connected.
And so like, where do you see the Black family with mental wellness today versus when like you were growing up?
So there's been a lot of change. There's some movement, which makes me excited because a lot of times when I was growing up, you'll hear people, they may be experiencing things you really couldn't put a finger on what that was. And it was like if there was issues or troubles that were going on in the home, you didn't discuss it, right? So what goes on in the house stays in the house. So people don't share their business, right? But now we have so many people who are excited about therapy, right? So they're like, my therapist is dope, and I can have therapy in Jesus, and all those different things. It really makes me happy because now we are getting away from that stigma. Like, we're now being able to accept the fact that it's okay to come share in a space, and a non-judgmental space, and really work out some of those problems that you may not have addressed.
Right, yeah. I think it's really amazing how, like, we have evolved. Because, like, we were, like, even when I was growing up, nobody was really talking about that and saying, like, we're going to therapy. Like, you kind of, like, you knew it existed, but that wasn't just a norm for us.
No, definitely not in our community, right? Therapy, when you thought about therapy, I think especially when I was younger, they talked about therapy as if it was for like crazy people, you know, like there's so many misconceptions about what therapy is, or, you know, if you were saved and you grew up in the church, like you didn't need to go to therapy because you just need to pray about it. You need to just talk to God about it. And so I think that's why, or you had to be rich. You know what I mean? To go to therapy.
True. That's another like thought that people have. Yeah, and that's not necessarily true.
No, that's not true at all. Therapy is very affordable. We're getting better, right? So we have not arrived. The access is not there, but that is my hope, is to definitely put it in the community and have culturally competent therapists.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a part of the problem that we have for so long too. There's so much medical mistrust. Okay, we have like not that, a lot of times people have not had the ability to have relationships with their doctors.
Right.
And so they put the therapist in the same realm, or, you know, talking to someone who doesn't necessarily look like you or understand what you're going through.
Yeah.
Being mislabeled, misdiagnosed. So those have been like some historical issues that we face, but we are making strides to make changes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so like when I'm thinking about like women going to therapy in this time, you know, the different generations, the dynamics of that, like what's your take on that? Like, are you seeing all generations, you know, engaging into therapy?
Yeah, like the younger generation, I am so amazed and excited for. I do work in a couple of different high school settings,
Mm-hmm.
and when I tell you they are excited, like, I want to see my therapist, I want to see the therapist when she comes, and I'm like, really? You know, because I thought, and even not just the young ladies, the males, they're like open to this, like, hey, I want this space to be able to kind of just work through what I'm feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Even so much more since COVID, right?
Okay.
There was a lot of isolation last year for students being at home, and I think now coming back to school and some anxiety, social anxiety, not being able to make friends. So things are a lot different now, and just helping them with coping skills.
Mm-hmm.
So that has been interesting. And then a lot of millennials, right? They love therapy.
Yeah.
Hey, I feel that. Like,
right. Like you see it all over social media. Jesus in therapy, and you know, all of that. Heal the Black woman and black. Like, they have definitely made it look cool.
Yeah, and it is cool.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the thing for me. It's still sometimes having older generations understand therapy, because sometimes I do have younger people who their parents are not like really on board, or they may think like, oh, I'm going to bring my child to therapy, I want you to change them. And it's like, oh no, like,
I can change them.
I don't. That's not what. That's not what this is.
I
like,
can't do that.
Yeah, you think I'm going to mold them into this? They have this problem, this problem, and sometimes it's like, oh, actually, you're the problem.
Yeah,
right. That's a hard conversation.
Wow.
To have, right? That's a hard conversation. Like, how can we effectively communicate? How can I get you guys on board to talk? How do you understand and appreciate your child? Right.
Yeah.
So they are a person, they have an identity, and so how do you explain to parents like, hey, this is a shared relationship, and so it's give and take, we both are talking, so yeah. I like that you had brought up the young men and like their feelings about it, because I do believe like there's been a shift with like men in general of like healing, like really, I feel like the pandemic, and you can tell me what your thoughts is, but I feel like the pandemic has forced men, especially like older generations, I would say probably late 30s, 40s and on up, to like look at themselves and have conversations, because you know they're you know, it was more of just, I provide. Yeah, I think that's true in a sense of, I think the pandemic really gave people an opportunity to look within, right? A lot of people were trying to like reestablish themselves. They lost a lot, right? And during that time, like figuring out with jobs, like, do I really even like my job?
I hear that so much.
Yeah. They're like, I actually hated this, right? People had an opportunity to be like, yeah, I didn't, can I do something different? And I think, although there was a lot of bad for some people, because there's been a lot of grief, but for some people it really opened up some doors, and they were able to pivot and make changes. And that's when they sought out the help and just said, hey, you know, I'm angry. Why did I do this for so long? And I think really at the beginning of the pandemic, you also have to remember we were in the middle of an election.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of race relations. We had the police brutality. So at the beginning of the pandemic, my phones were like off the hook, right?
Wow.
And a lot of other local therapists were saying the same thing. Well, actually, it just really was everywhere, because there was so much anger and people were tired, and they wanted to know, like, what do I do with this anger? And so that's when I saw an influx of men, because they were coming in, and I'm like, well, you know, anger is a secondary emotion, right? But we need anger. So I don't want you to do it. It's okay that you're
Right,
angry.
right. It's
But
okay.
like, it's like what you do with your behaviors when you are angry. How
Right.
do you channel this? So
Yeah.
those kind of conversations.
Even like, you know, people in the faith community, because we are believers, like, you know, like, it's okay that you can get angry. You know,
Absolutely.
just sin not.
Yeah. Right.
Try to do your best.
Right. It's like what you do when you're in that anger.
Right.
What do you do in that moment? Like, how do we come up with some coping skills? How do we channel this in a positive manner? What can you do to use that anger to promote positive change? So those things.
What do your children, because you have boys.
Yeah.
What do your children think about mom doing what she's doing?
I'm always excited that my kids they seem to be, like, they always are on board. I like to go home and not talk about work in the sense of, like, this is what I'm seeing, but, oh, this new exciting thing that I'm doing. And so, like I said, with my oldest son, the financial literacy component, I talk to my youngest son. He's, like, very much into social media. So he's like, Mom, you need to learn Snapchat. You need to learn how to do a TikTok, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know how to do any of these things. And he's like, you need to do this for your business. And so,
Right.
you know, they are excited about the business and give me their ideas and things like that. So, and when I'm always thinking of doing something new, I'll run it past them. Like, what you think about this?
Really?
So,
Like,
yeah.
so are you guys in, like, the group chat? You have a group chat? Or you kind of talk with them individually?
I talk with them individually, and every once in a while we'll put it in the chat, like, about business. But one of the things that having a business keeps me really busy, right? And so one of the things I negotiate, because it's really no balance, right? So some days I'm really heavily business mom, and some days I am mom, right? And so both of my sons are into sports, so I have to go to a lot of games. And like last week, I'm at the game, but I have my laptop out. I'm watching when my kid is in the game.
Really?
And then when they pull them out, I'm trying to write my paper, trying to do all these different things. But I negotiate with them by special events, like, okay, I might miss this, but I'm gonna make up for it because we're gonna do that. So we were able to do some really fun things, and so I think that helps them to be like, because we'll go out on some really cool trips for them. Like for my youngest son, I try to do things like he loves sports, so when we go on vacations, we go to the stadiums of where the different teams play. So when we were in New York, we went to Madison Square Garden, into the Barclays Center. When we were in Texas, you know, go out to AT&T State. Like, so I do those different things to be like, oh, I'm going to incorporate what you love in these things as well.
And you're still getting to do what you have to do.
Everything that you want to do, right?
Yeah.
Like, when the Bucks last season, we got an opportunity to go to.
Right. Wasn't that fun?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
It was amazing for the city.
Yeah.
It really was.
So then I get the grace for my kids to be like, oh, yeah, okay, mom is busy doing this right now.
Right.
I can say, let's do this, and she'll be like, okay, that affords us the ability to do some of those things.
So, like, still being present, but you're like, okay, let me send out this. Let me do this.
Right.
But you're still so present with them. And you're in school, too. What does school look like for a full-time mama, business entrepreneur? Because you are a lifelong learner, and that's what I love about you. Like, you know, like before I came in here, like, you know, okay, hold on, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Like, that's just you. That's who you are. And what I want to say about even lifelong learners, like, and I want you to, you know, encourage the young women, like, it's okay to be that. Yeah. You know, like, because sometimes people can kind of like shy away from like what they really love to do, you know, like who they really, really are. I know I have an aunt in my life who, and other people who are lifelong learners. And so, like, can you speak to that, like, especially for young women to like be, you know, continue to strive, continue to pour into yourself?
Yeah, I think that you have to continue to be a lifelong learner, no matter what field or what you're doing, because things change so rapidly, right? So everything changes. One of the things about me is, like you said, like, you have to be very comfortable with who you are, right? And so I'm a reader. I'm not a television watcher, so I don't watch television at all. And so when my friends and I get together, I don't know what.
You don't know what's going on.
I have no clue. And they're talking about somebody, and I'm like, who is she? And they're like, No.
Yeah.
She's on TV.
Never mind.
Right. We're not gonna have this conversation with
Yeah.
you, right? And I'm okay with that. And like being in school is something that I'm passionate about because I know what the end game is. I know what my goals are, and so it does take me out socially. I don't get an opportunity to be out much, but I try to make sure that I do tap back in.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. And then I have people in my circle who know that like, okay, this is just what she does. She goes into this tunnel of doing work, and they'll pull me out sometimes. Like, okay, that's enough now. We haven't seen you in a while.
Okay, we need to have some fun.
Yeah, it's time to have fun. Like, that's enough, right? So like just knowing that if you know what the end game is, sometimes you have to put I guess fun on the back burner, but still incorporate it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you might miss a couple of events, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Like later you can do those events, and maybe you can do them at a larger scale than what you were going to originally do. But I think that sometimes you just have to remember, like, being true to yourself look different for everyone, and what you love and desire, you have to give that attention to.
Yes.
Right.
Say that again.
Yeah.
What you love and desire,
you have to give that attention to.
True.
Yeah. So I'm always do schoolwork. I can't read as much as I want, like for pleasure, because I read so much for school.
Okay.
Right? So I'm trying to get my doctorate in public and community health, because again, it goes back to, I didn't even realize how full circle it came in the beginning.
Okay.
Because remember I said I wanted to be an attorney.
Right.
And so I ended up going to school for psychology and then political science.
Right.
Had no clue. That was just like the makeup of public health back. I didn't know that was originally where I was going to go, because I enjoy doing therapy, which is one-on-one, and maybe do some family sessions and things like that. But being in public health helps me to change policy, learn about changing policy, affect systems, right? Impact systems. We want to make changes on a larger scale.
Yes, come on,
right? So that's why I'm doing public health.
Right.
So, that's, and then that goes back to like, oh, okay, I may not be able to do these social events, but it's because I'm trying to make social change.
Yeah.
Do some social justice.
Say that again.
Right. So,
yeah.
So that's exciting.
Like, I can't do these social events because I'm trying to make social change. I like that.
Right, I'm trying to make change at a larger scale for our
the
community.
sacrifice is real, but it is like very beneficial in the long run.
It is. Oh, one of the things I did want to just share for people who we are busy. We did talk about like the practice and things like that, always being a life learner. I also just want to be able to say, just taking care of yourself is important.
Yeah.
Like making sure that you're having quality time for self-care.
Okay.
Right? Because we're always like so into helping others, but not always giving ourselves that same grace, that same love, giving yourself time. Like time is very important. Sleep. Right, your rest is so important.
Yeah.
You have to make sure that you're getting rest so that you can have the physical health that you need. So not just your mental health, your physical health. They both play a part with each other. So you have to take care of your body, nutrition, exercise, all those different things to make sure that you're a whole individual, so that you can show up not for others but for yourself. All
things well.
Yeah.
And what I always love to ask, because we want to know who supports you, who has empowered you to be the woman you are today. Who are the special women in your life? If you can name 1, 2 to 3 women who have helped Donetta.
So I won't name women because I don't want to forget.
Yeah.
I won't name women specifically because I don't want to forget anyone and then later be like, oh, I should have said this. But I do want to say that I do have a village. I do have a tribe and it's really interesting and very diverse, right?
Okay.
And some of them may not know, like, oh, I see you. I'm watching you. It's some women who are amazing mothers, and I love to look at how they care for their children, for their families. They're amazing wives, right? And so I pick up little things on how they took care of their husband or their children. There's some people who are so dedicated to the cause with their careers, so I'm watching them and I'm like, wow, you're growing, you're expanding. in academia, there's different women. So I do have a very
Mm-hmm.
specific thing of people that I look at or look to really help me to navigate in these spaces. I was watching a webinar before you came. So sometimes it's strangers, right?
Yeah.
It's strangers
Right, true.
like that I don't really know,
Right.
but I watch enough to say, hey, I like how they carry themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I love their integrity. I love their spirit. I love how they pour into others.
Mm-hmm.
Believe it or not, a lot of the people that I counsel, oh my gosh, yeah, how they're so resilient,
Mm-hmm.
how they're dedicated to making change.
Mm-hmm.
I love being able to draw from my clients. I help
Okay.
them, but their stories, the way they overcome obstacles, that really inspires me as well. So,
Yeah.
So it's just so many different people that I draw upon for strength and support and inspiration.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you and all that you're doing, and we've known each other for a while, and I thank you for what you're doing to deposit into us, into families, you know, and to, you know, your passion for Black families, but just families in a whole, as a whole.
Yeah, because as we get better, like everyone gets better, you know, they say.
Exactly.
So it's not just attacking one thing, it's just that with the Black community, the African American community, the community that I'm definitely a part of, we are usually behind in every area. And so that is my passion, is to help us to get to where we need to be. Yeah. So, yeah, definitely.
You're doing it.